Thank you so much. That was very interesting. Can I ask a question before you go? So the question I have is the gender in emails and elsewhere. Um, I can understand the idea of showing support by listing your gender, that you can recognize that difference. At the same time, if I were to write he, him, and white Jewish, okay, so the other identities that I might have, that neither of those other two would seem supportive of Christians or non-whites if I identified myself as whites. So it can help us understand how our expression of identity is around gender is perceived differently.
Because so the question was comparing the use of pronouns to the use of your identity as a Jewish person or a white person. The difference between those examples is that everybody has gender identity, right? And for gender identity to exist on this spectrum, not everybody is particularly religious. Not everybody has, and so including your gender pronouns is inclusive of all gender pronouns. You're saying that I understand that everybody has a different gender identity, right? And but if you list your being Jewish or being Christian or Muslim or whatever, you're identifying something about yourself that's not necessarily saying I'm being supportive of all religions, right? And that's clearly the way that the LGBTQ community would see the use of pronouns. Not that you're saying, well, the he, him pronouns are the best, but you're saying, these are my pronouns because I understand not everybody uses the male or the female pronouns. You look like you were going to say something. Oh.
Stop this line of questioning and move on.
So I mean, that's really how they're different. That's how they're different.
Can you comment? Because the reason I bring it up is had a discussion with my family about the students and some health systems are adding this to their ID. And so they kind of think it's important we understand why we would or would not want to include it in our self-identification, for example. I think, but is it inappropriate to ask, how that discussion then becomes problematic?
I think it's a little strange to ask if you should also list white on it too. I think they did a good job covering pronoun inclusivity on signature forms and
And I do agree that I just was at a brand new healthcare system, and they didn't ask pronouns, and I asked right away why they didn't.
I think it could be as simple as just saying our society, our culture has decided that it's, that we, because the LGBT community has said this is helpful, that we have decided, we understand, it's a cultural understanding we have, that it's inclusive and helpful to say our pronouns. And we haven't made that same decision as a society about race and religion and other things. We could just, to me, it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah, a quick comment.
I think it also gives the opportunity for an educational moment. If someone says, why are you putting she, they after your name? I know you're female.
Yeah.
Most people would understand, Dr. Edner, if you say you're white and you're Jewish, but not everybody's understanding yet what it means when we're talking about gender fluidity and gender identity vis-a-vis sexual orientation and so on. So I think it's really important. And when I see someone who's in an organization where they're asking everyone to do that, I assume that that's an organization that is understanding and supportive, particularly of trans and gender non-conforming individuals.
For sure.
And I certainly didn't mean it kind of negatively. I wanted some more explanation on that. Okay, so thank you so much. I have a kind of couple closing comments. One, wanted to ask you again if there's note cards on your table. We're looking for ideas and/or volunteers for future topic articles.
And so if you have an interested in something you want to read about or write about, please write those down. We'll collect those. Second, I wanted to spend a few minutes, and I do this kind of in my student education, is finding out what people learned today. And I could try to summarize and say, we covered this and that and the other thing, but I think we have a couple of minutes left on the program in terms of the number of CME minutes today to kind of find out if people will call out something they learned that they didn't know. Well, see, I'm going to wait because I do this with my students. Somebody learned something, and I'll just wait and make you sit until somebody says something.
I learned what long COVID, or a set of definitions of long COVID, which I did not know.
Okay, so I think, and I kind of, to summarize and generalize that, a fair amount of what we did today, including this last session, is about terminology and what things mean. So I listened to the competency lecture, and some of that was about the words we should use, and kind of the definition of some things around long COVID. We had several talks about the use of medications for dementia. How many of you were in one or both of those? And I only heard Dr. Holm, not the first, but I'd seen the slides from Ms. Griffin. Was that, in terms of review, was that a good compare and contrast? Yes. Okay. Okay. So, I think it represented two people that I work with at the VA who approach that decision-making process in the literature and their experience around use of medications and with people with dementia, as well as the populations that they have or are serving were somewhat different in terms of severity or referral versus general population. And so I think that's an example. We covered a variety of topics we've never covered before, covered a few that we do routinely, like the dementia and antibiotic stewardship. And I think the best was that we were able to get together for the first time in 3 years. And it was really a pleasure. We've had the largest group we've had in at least 5 or 10 years. And since we've certainly been at this location. And it's great to see everybody. And we had a bunch of new people. And so if you haven't welcomed any of the people who have the first time visitor, please do. Please come back. We're going to have the continuing education. You have to go back on the site and do the evaluations. And in one way or another, either through that or through, and you'll get an email reminder if I'm correct. Is that somebody? I'm pretty sure you'll get an email kind of link to do that evaluation. But we're also going to be interested either through that or a follow-up survey about next year, the hybrid, some of live, some remote, and kind of other ways we can improve this conference. This is kind of at the beginning. We were asked how many we've attended, and I think I'm probably in the 30 range since we missed a couple years maybe somewhere, but it's been really great. Nice to meet some of you for the first time and to reconnect with many of you again. So thank you very much. If there are any other questions or comments, I'll stay around, and some of the board members will stay around if you have some direct comments. Thank you.